So question 19 is related to salt identification. Usually, like if they ask a question, state the pH, some student used to write range of a pH. They did not ask state the range of a pH, they asked a specific pH depending on the type of a solution. If it's a strong acid, you write 13, 14, sorry, by mistake. If it's a strong acid, you write 1, 2. If it's a strong alkali, you write 13, 14. So two substances are there, D and solid D and solid E were analyzed, and D is a dilute sulfuric acid. So it is sulfuric acid, but dilute.
So it's a strong acid.
Yeah, it's a strong acid, but it is diluted. So it is acceptable if you write it's a strong acid. You can mention 1, you can mention 2, or you can mention 3 as well. Because when we make even a strong acid, if it is diluted, the pH will increase for that. As we are adding more water, the dilution of a solution leads to increase in the pH for acids and decrease in a pH for alkalis. So you can mention any number here. Example, you mentioned 2, you mentioned 3, but not 5, 6. A strip of a magnesium was added to the second portion. So we have a sulfuric acid and a gas was tested. You can use a screen annotation, chat, or a mic to answer. So what is the observation? Yeah.
Try to explain to a pop sound because it's a hydrogen gas.
Effervescence will be there.
Yeah. So observation, first observation you have to mention. So you will mention fizz, bubbles, effervescence. And then the second thing, because you mentioned the gas produced was tested. So means you have to mention the test for this gas. Solid dissolve, we have magnesium ribbon or a solid dissolve or size decrease, that's also fine. And the test, you will test with a lighted splint. And pops. Dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate. This is a test for halide. Yeah, this is a test for halide, chloride, bromide, iodide. So these ions are not there because it's a sulfate ion is there. So there will be no visible change or no reaction, you can say. No change is the right term because sometimes ions mix, but no visible change is there. No reaction is acceptable. Apart is there, or no precipitate is even acceptable. Dilute nitric acid followed by barium nitrate. This is a test for which ion?
White precipitate forms.
Yeah, this is a test for sulfate ion. So whenever a sulfate, because it's a sulfuric acid, so we know its sulfate ion is there. So it will give white PPT. Test on solid E. Solid E was tested. First, a white appearance of a solid. What this give an indication? If something is
not for no transition metal.
Good. So there is no transition metal is present. Solid E was heated gently, then strongly. A white solid residue is there, like a solid is left behind after decomposition. The distilled water was added and it's making a pH 10. So like this residue, the residue which was left behind after heating, we add water and make a solution and it give a pH 10. What this give an idea about the nature of a solution?
Alkaline oxide formed.
So we can say it's a weak alkaline solution, or you can also say that it also give an idea that there is OH ion is present because alkalinity of a solution.
Likely calcium carbonate, which formed calcium oxide.
And then dissolved to form a lime water. Yeah. Dilute hydrochloric acid was added to solid E, a rapid effervescence. Whenever we add acid to any solid and we observe effervescence and the gas was tested,
carbonate ion is present.
So it shows it gives an idea that there is a carbonate ion present. In test 1, we simply heat a solid. Like in test 1, there was solid E. What we did, we supply heat energy to the solid.
So it's a thermal decomposition.
So it's a thermal decomposition. So when we supply heat energy, the substance decompose into, like example, X and Y. Any other substance, we don't know what are the products, but then the residue, one of the residue which was there, a solid residue was there, we add water and that make an alkaline solution. Solution become alkaline. That is what happened in test 1. In test 2, a hydrochloric acid was added to solid E. So we have a rapid effervescence, rapid formation of the bubbles, and the lime water turned milky. So this is giving an evidence that this solid E contain a carbonate ion. How? Because a carbonate ion with acid gives carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide have a tendency to turn lime water milky. The distilled water was added to a solution and aqueous sodium hydroxide is added. If we add sodium hydroxide and we are observing a white PPT, what is given? This given
Calcium,
evidence?
aluminum, zinc can be present, but since it is insoluble in excess, it is calcium ion.
Yeah. So you can, in exam, in paper 6, you will have the identification of the ions. The sheet will be there. You can use that. As you can see in the question, they mentioned an excess of a sodium hydroxide was added, white precipitate which are insoluble in excess. So first we'll find which sodium hydroxide, which substances give a white PPT. So aluminum is giving white PPT, calcium is giving white PPT, precipitate, and zinc is giving white precipitate. But when we add an axis, what we observe that this will dissolve. Calcium will be insoluble. This will also dissolve. So in the question, they mentioned that it is insoluble in excess. It does not dissolve in excess. So this confirmed that there is a calcium ion. So first test indicate that there was calcium ion, and this test, like carbonate ion, the lime water one. So what is the identity of a substance?
Calcium carbonate.
So identity of a substance is, what is the distilled water? Distilled water is a pure water which does not contain any impurities. That's called a distilled water. So in a lab, because we use a distilled water, so there are no soluble or insoluble impurities in it, which does not interfere with the result. So identify the gas produced in test 2. So which gas was produced in test 2? That was carbon dioxide. And identify what we can conclude about solid E. So what we can conclude about solid E, first thing, you just have to check your results. First thing, it give an idea that this test give an idea that it does not have any transition element because it's a white solid. This give an idea that there is a carbonate ion. This gives an idea there is a calcium ion. So what we can conclude, we can say that this is actually calcium carbonate and it does not contain any other element or a transition metal. So you can write a formula, you can write the name of the compound, so it is calcium carbonate.